Welcome back to KickBack. We are now kicking off hour 2. Aiden, it's so good to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, this is the 7th year of KickBack, which is incredible that we've been doing this for that long. Does it feel like that?
It doesn't.
We share every single year. We take a picture of what we look like that first moment staring into the camera. And year 1, it was definitely both like, oh, what did we get ourselves into? But I was told to smile more. So thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to have both Rachel and Jill from Up Yoga and Wellness. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's wonderful to be back, and we love that you guys have helped put this together.
I know before you wanted to talk about that the path through healing, the path to healing is through feeling. Can you just explain a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to one of my first encounters with yoga. It's a time in my life where I was encountering a lot of what we would call as trauma relative to my life and my experience. And I landed in a yoga class, and it was very unfamiliar. But at the end of class, I had this big emotional release, and I left feeling very light compared to when I came in. And fast forward now to having our space, Up Yoga and Wellness in Paris, Ontario, we understand that the path to healing is through feeling, feel to heal. And by that I mean, it's simply, we live in a culture where we are in our headspace a lot, and there is incredible value in talk therapy. That said, we also need to access our mind, body, our soma, because we are whole beings. We are mind, body, spirit, and it is all integrated. And so if we're just addressing mental health from the perspective of talking and thinking things through, we're missing, 2/3 of our body. And we have a brain on our heart, and we have a brain in our gut that both produce neurochemicals and think in their own way. And so we offer modalities at the studio that are less cerebral. They get you out of your head and into your body to feel and to process emotions, energy in motion, through movement, through breath work, through cryotherapy, which is cold exposure. We have an infrared sauna. We have emotional freedom technique, biofield tuning, and Eden energy medicine, which are modalities that work with the subtle energy body. And Jill is our emotional freedom technique practitioner in studio, and she's offering a bi-weekly EFT drop-in session. And I've learned so much from Jill about working with your energy body and how that can help you heal from the roots all the way up the stem.
So Jill, if someone was to come to the drop-in, what could they expect there?
Right. So you're going to learn what EFT is. And you're going to learn the basics of how to do it. So think of it like emotional first aid. It's wonderful when you're sitting across from your practitioner and your practitioner can guide you through something, but we're not always with our people when life happens. So it's wonderful to have a tool that's like, I remember I did some tapping here on the side of my hand. And if that's all you do while you're having this big body sensation of sadness or grief or anxiety, and you can just breathe and ride that wave, it's like, whew, cool. Tick in my box, right? So it's really, we're keeping it very basic. It'll be done in a group format, so we can go into things what we call indirectly in the EFT world. So I don't have to talk about the details of my stuff, but I just have to feel it in my body and just tap. And it's my job to hold that container. And you can do it through really fun ways with drawing. You can do it through a little bit of journaling, and you can even just do it through movement.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's 75 minutes. Yeah, it's a really nice just taster. Is this for me or is this not for me? And to have an experience. Because I can talk to a lot of people about what tapping is, but if you have an experience of it, if you're like, wow, I feel physically different, like Rachel after her first yoga class, she's like, there's something to this. And that is something that is unique to each individual after they do something.
And you have to try different things to find which one suits you.
Yeah. feels right for you.
Can you explain a little bit, Jill, about what is going on when you do the tapping?
Yeah. So EFT is very founded in traditional Chinese medicine. And traditional Chinese medicine works with meridians. So when we tap, you're tapping on the end of acupressure points that come the closest to the surface of the skin. And basically, as you tap, you're creating a vibration. And so when you embody or you feel something that doesn't feel very comfortable on the spectrum of emotions, you are helping to shift or to release that emotion through the electrical system of your meridians. And you just keep breathing, and therefore your body kind of does the rest.
Our autonomic nervous system is incredible. And when we just give it space to do what it already knows how to do, that's where a lot of healing can really happen. And so again, I'll go back to like getting out of your head, getting out of thinking and overthinking into just feeling. And this weekend we had a sound bath at our studio, which was phenomenal. We had a retreat, a half-day retreat, and we also had a Wim Hof method workshop with Dom, who is on next to chat.
It was a busy weekend.
It was a busy weekend, and I was fortunate enough to be able to come and take the Wim Hof workshop on Friday night, move my body Saturday morning, breathe, and then take part in the sound bath on Sunday. And I really had this felt experience of leaving light and literally vibrating at a different level and having this clarity in my mind from doing a weekend full of somatic work in a very supportive community where we talk about these things all the time. There's no shame in talking about them, and it's a beautiful thing when you pair community with modalities that help you access the feeling.
And it's neat to see people come to the studio who have heard about these things but never experienced them, and they're almost a little gobsmacked. They're just like, I feel really good. And it's so different than what they're used to experiencing. They're a little bit speechless, which is neat from my perspective as a practitioner, because that is an amazing sign that their body is processing what it needed to and what was brought up and felt. And it's just leave them alone. Like, don't leave them alone, but hold that container of space for them and just let their body continue to process it. And you can see all of the things going on in their mind, and they're just like, wow. And it's really powerful.
And when you come for treatment at the studio and you're still processing, or what we like to call integrating the somatic work, we have this beautiful space. It's called our Zen Den. It's a silent space. We have twinkle lights. It's low lit. We have a fireplace and salt lamps, and you can just go and sit in there and be and journal or read or just lie down and take a nap.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
The integration phase is really important after doing a somatic therapy or a somatic anything, because really that's where the exchange of the balance happens, is in that space. If you were just to go jump back into your life, you almost wouldn't process it as much as perhaps your body would like. It's kind of like after you do physical exercise and you're like, I'm gassed, and you go home and you crash. You have a lot to eat and then you go to bed. It's the same. And a lot of people will say, like, I'm starving. Yes. Because doing that emotional work uses just as much like calorie and energy as it does to do something physical, and people don't realize it.
And we've got to go to break, so if you are feeling hungry, you can head to the fridge, and we'll be right back after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today, I helped someone understand new government supports.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Vrooman would rather sell you across the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
No! Just get her into the boat. No!
Chloe! Chloe, no!
Word of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
I did it.
I need it.
The hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift to life. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
I'm Aiden.
And we are continuing the conversation with Rachel and Jill from Up Yoga and Wellness. Again, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us here today.
Now, before the break, we were painting the picture that you, and Jill, you said it great, the idea of having to go on a lot of first dates to try and find something that works, right? And there's a lot of exploration that needs to happen for people to just get that to that point of just feeling good.
Sure.
But I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know that they aren't feeling the best that they could possibly be.
Right. And that's for a lot of reasons, right? The environment that you grew up in, where you went to school, the relationship you had with your parents, like there's a lot of factors. But if you think about like your approach to mental health, like your approach to moving your body as a kid, you know, some people try soccer and they're like, yes, that's for me. And other people are like, no, I like to curl. And really, we just have to go and have experiences with all of these different activities to know, is this a for me, or is this a no? Right. And when it comes, well, mental health is new in the realm of wellness. You know, it's been around, but nobody really thought to do it proactively. So, yeah, it's the same rules apply. Physical movement versus like mental health support, it's the same. And a lot of times the mental health support is the thing that we leave too late. And then totally guilty. So far down the rabbit hole, went to try to talk to somebody and I was just in this like loop of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And there was no talking myself out of that. I don't advise people to do that. Like I wish I would have had somebody, but that's also how I learn. I just have to go that far down the rabbit hole. So yes, you do. You just have to try. And sometimes it's frustrating. It's easier to do when you're in a better place, mental health wise, than far down the rabbit hole, but it can still be done. But you're definitely more likely to stick with something when you're at that very grounded place, that well-informed, as opposed to like you're just desperate and you're just calling every phone number that you find on Google. Yeah.
And I think it's really important to approach mental health from the perspective of, you know, when things are coming up for you and you're in that place of a funk or what we would label anxiety and depression, like definitely go and talk to somebody, let your family know that you're struggling, talk about it, you know, break through that threshold of shame that so many people feel when it comes to mental health stigma. But then in addition to that, One thing that I feel is part of the culture of the studio is recognizing that when these things are coming up for you and things are getting uncomfortable, in a way it is a gift of your body, your soma, saying you're ready to heal. And this is coming up for you to feel and to heal and to process and transmute and learn and grow from. And hopefully, it's our hope that that is the end point of experiencing challenges in your mental health for everyone.
I will say mine did not feel like a gift when mine came up. And I was
that too.
very angry at it for a very long time. But being on the flip side, it's like, wow, like my life would have never have changed in this trajectory if it hadn't have done that. So honor where you're at. If you're at, this sucks and I hate this, yes, that is the place that you start. You start with that anger and that frustration, and that is the layer to working through your stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Very empowering.
Yeah.
And we have lots of tools and modalities. I know, again, Dom's coming on next to talk about Wim Hof method, but it's really, really, really incredible. Coming hot off the Wim Hof workshop Friday, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And the movement and the breath work and the community. The energy medicine that Jill offers is just beautiful, and you don't have to do anything. You just show up and land and receive. So I would say to anyone who is curious about accessing their soma to come into studio and chat and hang out with us. Love to give you a tour.
Yeah. I think everybody has access to that somatic feeling.
Yes.
Because you get the sweaty palms when you're nervous, or you get the butterflies in your belly, or you're like your brow starts to sweat, or your belly's just like, oh my God, it drops to the floor. That is a somatic experience. It's an uncomfortable one. So keep riding that, and then integrate something that helps to metabolize it so that it clears, and then you're in this beautiful spacious feeling of like, oh. And in that spacious feeling, you can put in whatever you want. That's when the positive goes in. But you have to get rid of you have to shift and metabolize the uncomfortable first before you can put in those positive manifestations. Because otherwise it's like oil and water mixing, and it doesn't integrate in the body.
And Jill, what was that experience like for you when you did discover, I believe it was EFT?
It was tapping first.
It was tapping, right? What was that feeling?
Story.
Yeah. So I had a 7-8 month anxiety attack, like all day, every day. Chest pain, palpitation, shortness of breath, couldn't turn off my brain. And I got to the point where I was ready to start drinking heavily or doing drugs because it just, it was like this internal invader in my body, and it just wreaked havoc in everything.
And she was already teaching yoga, already doing mindfulness, and a career of paramedicine. So she had access to a lot of tools already.
Yep. I did not want to be on my yoga mat. It was frustrating because it gave me more space for this to go crazy. It was like not doing it. And yeah, after that day, I just threw my arms up and I was like, well, I guess this is just going to be my life for the rest of my life. I guess this is just what happens when stuff happens. And then an email came across my computer that said tapping for anxiety. And I was so desperate. I was like, I'll do anything. And it was pre-recorded, maybe 3-4 minutes, and I tapped, and that was the first time in 8 months that I could actually take a full breath and a full exhale. And I was like, what just happened? And then I just dove down the rabbit hole, and that's how it started. But that was this weird thing of like tapping on my face, and I had no idea what I was doing other than following her along. But the experience that it gave me of the relief, that was what I kept chasing. Chase the thing that gives me the relief in a really positive way.
Right. And what would you say to somebody that may be watching at home that may be struggling with something similar to what you did? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, find a community that you feel supported and heard in, and just stay curious and keep trying things. And if there's this part of you that is still drawn to this thing and you don't know why, follow the part of you that's drawn to that. And there's lots of help out there. There are lots of things that work. And then worst comes to worst, tap on the side of your hand.
Right. Well, I think we've got about like a minute and a half left in this segment. Would you like to lead short tapping?
We could.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. Let's do it.
What do we want to tap on? Give me a trajectory to go on. Okay, let's scratch that.
Go it.
I'll just do it so generically. Side of your hand. It doesn't matter what hand. You could do both. Okay. and then feel your bottom in whatever surface you're sitting on, and take a nice big breath in through your nose. And then let that go.
1 minute.
Good. And repeat after me, even though.
Even though.
Even though.
I got this feeling in my body.
I got this feeling in my body.
I have no idea what it's about.
No idea what it's about.
But I know I don't like it.
I don't like it.
And I soothe and comfort myself.
I soothe and comfort myself.
Take another big breath. Let it go. Even though.
Even though.
30
I've got
seconds.
this thing that I feel.
I've got
This thing that I feel.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I don't know where it comes from.
I don't know where it comes from.
Or what it's about.
What it's about.
I just know I don't like it.
I just know I don't like it.
And I soothe and comfort myself.
And I soothe and comfort myself.
Big breath.
We have 20 seconds.
And let it go.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Jill, for joining us today. If you want more from Up Yoga and Wellness, find them on Facebook. Thank you so much, and we'll be right back.
All new episodes of Chicago Wednesday return January 17th on City TV.
Remember me?
Let's get to work. Just like old times.
Looks like we're going for a ride.
We're doing this my way.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show. If you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hey guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
Leonard Thompson, 13 years old, diabetes mellitus, 65 pounds.
Starve the child to let them live. The treatment's as cruel as the disease. It's a death sentence.
Dr. Banting, this could be it. He's the first to receive this trial. But will it save him?
It's not pure enough. So we try again. And again. And again.
Before the discovery of insulin, diabetes was a death sentence. Banting, Best, Collip, and McLeod's breakthrough has saved millions of lives. Leonard Thompson's was the first.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
Have a hold on one at 15.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name is Aiden.
And we have Dom from Life Force joining us today to talk about the Wim Hof method.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dom.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Dom, can you explain to us about what exactly is the Wim Hof method?
So it was developed by Wim Hof himself, Dutchman, crazy, had 26 world records at the time, and he was doing some feats, and this all came from a period of pain of losing his wife who had schizophrenia and had committed suicide and leaving him with 4 children at the time. Mm-hmm. So he decided to, and he was already at 12 years of age already looking into esoteric disciplines, the meaning of life, and why are we here? So he was kind of curious on that sort of thing, and then he came across the actual like cold water in like a natural body of water during the middle of the winter time, and it kind of just drew him like I think mid-teens, and he got into it and felt amazing. And then he saw how breath work, getting into the cold water, like you're actually like gasping, so it's important to have breath work as part of like cold exposure. So he was doing like breath work, and he already had the prior knowledge of like breath work, esoteric disciplines, Buddhism and all that. So he actually got into that and then started doing the breath work separate from the actual cold, and saw all these visions, auras, the third eye, moving energy throughout the body. And he kind of developed the method over time, and then scientists started studying him, and that's how he kind of was able to prove to everybody and scientists that we're able to influence our autonomic nervous system, our nervous system, along with any other processes in the body as well. So.
Right, that's amazing. I didn't, like, you never really think past, like, oh, that's just what he does, but you never think about where that actually came from, right? Yeah. And I think that that's so cool that it's something that Wim Hof developed on his own, and was just naturally drawn to that too, and found that experience was something that helped him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, what drew you to Wim Hof?
So it was in 2019, I was at a bike park here in Brantford, and just with my boy. I didn't have my helmet, so I wasn't planning on doing any crazy jumps, but I was watching these young teens with their BMX bikes and jumping off these hills, and so I'm looking how they're landing, and like, maybe I can give it a shot. So I took off a jump there, and I overshot the landing, and I crashed on my clavicle, broke a whole bunch of bones, ribs, and punctured a lung. So a stay in hospital led me to watching some documentary where Wim was featured, and how he was being injected with E. coli and influencing his autonomic nervous system, and then like obviously his immune system. So he didn't have like the actual reaction that someone would get if they were injected with E. coli or some form of bacteria. So he didn't have like the sweats, the vomiting, the chills, the 6-7 hours of agony that someone would get to have like to fight off a virus. And he was able to do it just with his breath work. So
wow.
Pretty cool stuff.
Definitely. And what benefits do you see from the cold exposure for mental health and the breathing as well?
So you're obviously, you can remember the acronym DOSE. So you're obviously bringing in 250% more dopamine. So a lot of people now are kind of just like receiving the ultra processed dopamine with social media and scrolling or food. So this sort of here kind of creates that stressful environment for the body, or the saying, I guess, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you're dealing with dopamine, you're getting like a 530% increase of norepinephrine. So, and they've done studies, I guess, with just someone who's done breath work, and they're releasing more adrenaline than someone going for their first bungee jump for the first time. So, yeah.
Wow. What are some of the things that you hear from people that work with you and try? Because these are now courses, you offer these courses for people, and you teach them how to do this.
So I usually it's a 3.5-hour presentation, depending upon how many people have questions, I guess. But I do lead them through the science behind it, like the why, what's going on in the body, the hormones, the endorphins that are being secreted. So you're dealing with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and then you're also tapping into the pharmaceutical that we have in our brainstem, which is dealing with the opioids and endocannabinoids. So yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
It's powerful, and I know through like my wife with the yoga studio, but like breath work. Can you just share a little bit more about like breath work and what that does to your body?
Yeah, so with the actual Wim Hof method, you're expelling a lot more carbon dioxide, and you're bringing in all that oxygen. It's being attached to your red blood cells. So you're manipulating the gases within the body, and then obviously your kidneys are sensing a difference in that difference, or the change in like carbon dioxide and oxygen. So it's releasing molecules for the production of more red blood cells, more blood vessels, and also you're influencing your immune system, and you're becoming more alkaline. So you're able to have, like, the body's in that not natural, but it's an environment or a state where a lot of bodily processes can happen. And obviously with the breath work you're just manipulating a lot of your hormones. So yeah.
Awesome. And how have you seen the Wim Hof method affect people that are dealing with like extreme stress?
It engages your vagus nerve, which is your 10th cranial nerve, and it obviously it's a two-way directional highway system feeding from your brain down to your organs, specifically your heart and your lungs. And then you also have another one that goes through your diaphragm. So we're teaching people how to breathe and using that skeletal muscle, which is the diaphragm that divides your lower organs and your upper organs. And you're sending the breath down to your belly and then engaging the rib cage. So you're manipulating that vagus nerve, you're stimulating it. So it's telling the body to get in that parasympathetic state, relax and digest. It's calm, it's safe. So there's nothing or no reason to panic.
Right, and that's awesome. And I think that it's so cool that these are things that you come and take at the workshop, or you watch videos online, right? And you're able to use those and put them to work immediately.
And that's how I started. I was just a YouTube video beginner round with Wim Hof. It was a guided breath, meditation and a breath work. And then I just got into other meditative videos that soon followed after that. And so it's almost like a gateway into meditation.
Right, and what would you say to somebody that maybe is on the fence about trying cold exposure or breath work, because it is on the outer side of modalities. Can you just share about what you might tell somebody?
Just feeling is understanding. Even with the breath work too, a lot of people, just for me, I didn't take a workshop at that time. It was kind of just I watched a documentary, and then I started watching YouTube videos. But then I laid down and I started feeling all these sensations and tingling, and I started seeing auras, so I wasn't sure if this was normal. So it was kind of scary at first. So that's why I suggest people to take a workshop, especially if you're dealing with a lot of cardiovascular issues, if you have epilepsy, or if you're pregnant. So all these things and precautions, not doing it near water is also important. So these are safety protocols that people should at least take a workshop and find out for themselves, and be guided by someone who's trained and certified. It's actually a more enjoyable experience rather than kind of feeling that apprehensiveness and scariness, what's going on in my body, is this normal? So yeah.
Definitely. And where can people find more from you and LifeForce?
I'm on Google, and I'm also on the Wim Hof platform. So if you just go on the Wim Hof Method platform, all the scientific studies are on there that when they started studying him, and there's ongoing studies and papers that are coming out, more research into anxiety, depression, bipolar, inflammation, chronic pain. So this is if you had to put the Wim Hof method in a pill, I think everyone would be seriously taking it. So.
Perfect. And you have upcoming workshops listed on your website as well?
I have one at the end of this month at Up Yoga Wellness, and also another one in February.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. And we will be right back after this.
Thank you.
Kitchener's perfect music mix is on Chime 96.7. So every song is someone's favorite song. On Chime 96.7.
Remember me?
Let's get to work.
Just like old times.
Looks like we're going for a ride.
We're doing this my way.
For frank discussion on Canadian politics and issues that matter to you, tune in to Addressing the Issue with Andy Streisfeld, Fridays at 6:30 on Rogers TV.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
Ani, I'm Carolyn King, and I'm a member of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the creator of the Moccasin Identifier. Philip Cote, an artist in Toronto here, took and redrew real moccasins. We're starting over with the children. The idea is that they would research whose land their school is built on, near, or what treaty area they're in. And the educational kit that we have has all that information in there. And the children just, love it. My dream is that this province will be covered with moccasin identifiers within the next decade, and they will forever know whose land they're on. That's the goal. educate and awareness with a nice, simple little program called the Moccasin Identifier.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdsville, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name is Aiden.
And we are now joined by Megan Day, psychotherapist qualifying. Megan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And now I know you wanted to talk about life transitions. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. So in my work as a therapist, oftentimes people are coming to me because they're going through something. And oftentimes that's a life transition. And so I talk about, well, what does that even mean? And it means something different is happening for you. So that could be anything from like your kids moving out because you're empty nesting now, or it could be a diagnosis of a chronic illness that you're kind of dealing with, or a divorce, or anything that's kind of throwing off your expectation, or that's really hard to cope with, a change in your life.
What might be a sign that someone's kind of experiencing that?
Yeah, so they might be very upset. They might be in their lives, if they're having a transition that's really difficult to cope with, they might be struggling at work. They might be having a really hard time just like doing their day to day. And you kind of notice that. And sometimes it comes out as anxiety or depression, and kind of these states that are really difficult to manage daily, and it's interfering with the way that you're functioning. So lots of different ways that it can show up, but oftentimes it's, when things feel out of control.
Definitely. And for you as a therapist, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. To me, it means, something is different. So I'm trying to have the conversations around, well, what were the expectations and what has happened differently from that? How has that veered? What are the losses associated with that my clients might be coming in and feeling? So sometimes those losses are ambiguous losses, meaning it's not something that's socially accepted or socially talked about, like a separation, or there's lots of different kind of losses that can happen, an expectation for like this healthy, exciting life with your partner, and then that falls away, and that's kind of like a bit of a taboo thing to talk about. Sometimes my clients will say, nobody is asking me how I'm doing. Nobody wants to like upset me. They don't want to ask about this difficult thing I'm going through. You find that a lot with grief. You find that a lot with like divorce. People are just afraid to touch the subject, and then that makes an individual feel really isolated. And so I guess the question was, what does it mean to me? It means that a person is struggling to manage, struggling to feel connected, and struggling to cope with a change that's happening in their life.
So if someone's struggling with that and they come to you for their first session, what would they expect in that?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm a talk therapist, so we're doing a lot of talking. And in my sessions, I'm really concerned with understanding my clients' perspectives. So I approach my sessions with a lot of curiosity. Although I may have seen someone going through a divorce before and helped them through it, each person is a new person to me, a new individual. So there's a lot of questions that I have, a lot of questions about how are you doing and how did this come about and what does it mean to you and how does it feel. Some somatic stuff as well, like how does it feel in your body? Where do you feel it? Where do you carry that? Do you notice that your heart is racing? Do you notice that you're feeling ill? So I'm asking lots of questions essentially in the first session, and it's a lot of getting to know what's going on for the client, but also me trying to get in a groove with them, trying to develop this therapeutic relationship that is so foundational to the work of psychotherapy as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I know there tends to be a lot of stigmas that surround therapy in that sense. And I just want to, like, people go and you see them, maybe they've gone to their doctor, and they've seen their family doctor, and they've been prescribed something. How can talk therapy add to that when maybe they're feeling like they don't necessarily want to talk, but it's a necessary step, right?
Yeah, so talk therapy can certainly help to process emotions and to name emotions and to kind of help a person to kind of integrate into their lives and communicate with the key people in their lives how they're feeling. So I think of therapy almost like a dress rehearsal for real life. Like, we're practicing these skills together, we're having these conversations, we're formulating stories about their life and the narrative together so that they can then leave that session and apply that in their relationships.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, like those life transitions that we spoke about earlier, there's a lot, like specifically for me, so like 3.5 years ago, Theo, my son, came into the world, right? And that was a big transition for me personally in how that just affected day-to-day life, but I didn't necessarily realize it. So some of those transitions can definitely sneak up on you. And then you're like, why do I feel different? And then there can be not like shame attached to that too when you're feeling different or off. And I know we talked a little bit about that earlier in the first hour of the show, but just can you speak to shame in just
Absolutely. I mean, shame is such a big piece that affects the way that we kind of go through our lives. And shame is a heaviness. It's like a cloak. And unfortunately, because of that, it's hard to talk about and sort of hard to have conversations because of that shame. And then the product of that is feeling really isolated. And so, where's the help in that? Right. How does that work? And so, carrying forth, I'm not going to change the way shame society shames us for certain things, or our upbringings shame us for certain things, or things we carry. But in the work that I do, the hope is that it's very non-judgmental. I'm not there to kind of amplify the shame. I'm there to help unpack the shame. Why might I be feeling this way? Why am I feeling like I can't ask for help? Why do I feel like a bad, broken person because of this thing that I'm going through? So it's really about identity and how the shame can kind of impact your identity, and trying to lift that a little bit through self-compassion, through, conversations that are destigmatizing some of these diagnoses and these feelings. Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody that may be watching at home that maybe is struggling with their identity in this and maybe struggling with shame? What would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I would say, you're not alone. There are resources available. There are, believe it or not, people that might understand, not exactly what you're going through, but might be able to kind of walk alongside you and help you to kind of understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. I would say find community if you're able to, whether that be through, shared interests, shared identities, shared lived experiences. Try and move past it, because on the other side of that, there's this kind of beautiful integration of who you are and what you are and your identity, and kind of bringing that all forth into the world is important.
Can you share how our viewers can find more from you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm working right now out of Up Yoga and Wellness, so we can find me on the website for there. I also work out of a clinic in Cambridge called Relationship Matters Therapy Center, so I can be found there as well. And I see clients in person in Cambridge and in Paris, but also virtually across Ontario.
Wonderful, and thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you for
Megan. We
having
really
me.
appreciate your time. We're going to be heading to break very soon. Thank you so much.
This year, the NHL All-Star Game is in Toronto.
Here in my house. In our house.
And all the stars are here for hockey.
I'm here for skills.
Here we go, here we go.
Here for power.
This is the main event. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh.
Toronto, you hear this?
The Rogers NHL All-Star. Watch on Sportsnet.
Here we go.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show, if you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship, but as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, Letsamot, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
Aging Well brings you conversations with experts to help empower your golden years with enthusiasm and optimism. Don't miss Aging Well with Angela and Alice Liu, Thursdays at 7:30 p.m.
Weekly features on local events and organizations. Interviews with local community members speaking on what's happening in and around your community. Your Region This Week. All local, all year round. Fridays at 6 p.m. right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
We are now joined by Stephanie Dinsmore of Mindful Path Counseling.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, I love being here. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
And so we wanted to talk about what it means to be a holistic trauma provider.
Yeah, so I've been a counselor now for 17 years. When I started my counseling journey, I didn't really know how to define myself, but I've been in practice now for 17 years. And what I've learned about myself as an individual and also providing counseling is that I identify as a holistic trauma therapist. And so that just means encompassing kind of all the things. So mind, body, spirit, emotions, everything.
Right, that's so cool. And can you share a little bit about your journey getting to that point, like of kind of collecting all of those pieces?
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think back to when I started. So when I started, I actually started my career in town at Grand River Community Health Center. So I was a general practitioner, general counselor. And so I was trained in more maybe of the basic modalities that people are most common with. So cognitive behavior therapy, which is thinking about thoughts and how our thoughts affect our behaviors and all the things. And over my career, I took several different trainings. So trauma related, mindfulness related. I've really recently got into somatics and polyvagal, and now internal family systems, which termed as IFS. And these are all more body-based or emotion-based, and how we hold our emotions in our body and how trauma impacts us. So we actually hold all of these things within inside of ourselves. And so to be focusing more on how do we work through moving those emotions outside of our body to kind of have a release. So working through the trauma first, and it's a bottom-up approach versus where CBT is a top-down approach.
Right, and I can tell that you're you're passionate about it, right?
Passionate.
What is it that lights you up about being able to offer these alternative methods?
I think for me, because I've done a lot of work personally, so in my own counseling journey, in my own life journey, my own health journey, I've seen the personal benefits to doing holistic trauma work. And so it's stuff outside the counseling wall as well. So we have to consider like our gut and our microbiome and how our hormones balanced, and all of those different things actually impact us. And when we do kind of that medical work with holistic trauma counseling, we're able to kind of recover from, you know, some of these things we've experienced a long time ago. Our body remembers, but we try to forget. And so I've seen the benefits personally, and I've seen the benefits with my clients. And I mean people who have come to us to say, I've been in counseling for 30 years. Nothing has helped. I've done CBT, I've done DBT, I've done it all. Please help. And they do holistic trauma counseling, again, somatics, polyvagal, EMDR, anything that helps to work those emotions outside of our body so we can externalize and process our trauma, it works.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does this look like for your clients if they were to come and work with you?
So I do more somatic work. I do have therapists within our team that do EMDR, so that's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy. Kind of looks like this when they're, you know, doing the work. It just depends, I guess, which holistic trauma model we choose. But if you're choosing something like EMDR, which a few of our providers are trained in, the nice thing about that is a client can come in, they don't actually have to verbalize or identify the trauma, they just have to so much so think about it. And then the therapist doing the EMDR is actually helping them process the trauma.
That's very neat.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
You mentioned something, it was very like the mind tries to forget, but the body remembers.
Yes.
Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So if you have not read, I highly recommend to you and anyone watching reading The Body Keeps the Score. It is the #1 piece of literature I recommend all of my clients, all of my new therapists, providers, anyone in school to read. Because this book talks about how our body holds and remembers trauma, where our mind tries to forget, or we try to avoid, or maybe use some
bury it,
cope with it, avoid. And it just talks about how when we identify and are able to access the trauma within our body, we can work through and process it, reprocess it, refile it in our brain and in our body, and, you know, work towards that healing.
That's amazing. What was that book again?
The Body Keeps the Score.
Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so with that, what do you typically see, like somebody takes on that knowledge and they learn that, what does that do to them as a person when they start to use these maybe alternative methods and they start understanding that it's not necessarily something they've done, but something that's they've experienced maybe even just after birth or whenever it might be, right?
Yeah, it's true, because trauma can happen in many different ways, whether it's historically or something more present. Car accidents can be something like that too. But when we work through and understand kind of what's happened, because it's what's happened to us, you know, not something we've done, but what's happened to us, and how we're able to work through and process that experience. We're, like I said, we're able to almost like refile it in our brain. And when we're doing that, we're actually having a memory. When it's a trauma memory, it's called a fragmented memory. And so our brain and our body, there's that disconnection when it's fragmented, and we're holding on to it in the form of our senses. So maybe we're seeing something, maybe there's a scent that triggers that trauma. When we can refile and close that, we're able to say, oh, okay, I know what that was. I feel okay now that I'm experiencing it in the present.
Right.
Yeah.
That must be pretty empowering for your clients.
Yeah, you just see people light up like, okay, it's not something wrong with me. Like, this is something that happened to me. And now I feel more in control of like my mind, my emotions, my body, my experiences.
Cool. And what would you tell somebody that maybe has tried everything, or so they think, and they've navigated all sorts of different things? What would you tell them?
Yeah, so, and we get these calls all the time. I always just kind of recommend, like, if you are uncertain, what about a consultation call with a holistic trauma provider, someone that does somatic experiencing, practicing polyvagal, internal family systems, or EMDR as ones that we offer within our own practice. There are others. Have a consultation call with one of those providers to see what the therapy would look like for you. See if it's something different, if you're open to it, you want to experience it, and try it.
Right. And you've mentioned it a few times now, internal family systems?
Internal family system, IFS.
What is IFS?
Oh my goodness, I'm actually just going through my training, so I'm learning about all the IFS pieces. But basically it talks about the parts of ourselves. So we have different parts of ourselves, and when different parts are activated, we'll know different parts really come out. So we might kind of function or appear differently in our workplace than we do to our partner, than we do to our friends. And because of all the things that have happened to us over time, we feel maybe more comfortable with our friends maybe than we do at work or meeting someone new, and different parts of ourselves come up. So in internal family systems, we want to look at who are your, what we call managers, firefighters, and exiles, and how are they functioning, and how do you as yourself, the self being kind of the center part, how are you interacting with those pieces or parts is the kind of the common word in IFS. And ideally we're unburdening those parts so we can function optimally. All of our parts of ourselves have a purpose. It's just making sure we're not like yelling and reacting at work, you know. We're getting our needs met, and we're able to do that when our parts are unburdened.
Awesome. And where can people find out more about you and also about your practice?
Yeah, so they could go to our website, so mindfulpathcounseling.ca. We also have an Instagram. We've also just launched our podcast called Therapists Off the Clock, where we talk all about kind of somatics, holistic healing, our authentic self. We've just done our first season, and it's split up into mind, body, and soul. So you'll learn all of the things that we talked about today and a bit more.
Awesome. And what is it like for you as like a practitioner, as a counselor, to be able to, because you work with a full team, right?
Yeah.
So being able to pass this information and empower that team with the work that you're learning and kind of bringing into the fold.
It is probably one of the most powerful things I've ever been able to do. Never in a million years did I think I would have a private practice, lead other people, other new providers into their careers, into who they are as therapists. It is so fulfilling. I absolutely love it, so much so that I've really leaned into doing a lot more business coaching for therapists who want to grow, who want to start private practice, who maybe want to start a group practice, maybe they're a sole provider. So I've actually kind of taken my leadership degree now and kind of leaned more into some of the business coaching.
Awesome, very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will be right back after this.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
My name is Matthew Rutledge. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, born in Red Lake. Was adopted from there to Toronto at the age of 4. A lot of